Okay, we're live.
Live on Facebook.
I think it's working.
I think it's working. Yeah, there's about a 20-second delay. So
Okay.
hello everybody. Tracy here with my dear friend Lorinda Walker. I'm so excited you're here to join us for this next edition of 20 Seconds of Courage. Lorinda and I are going to be talking today about money, myths, mindset, perfectionism, goal setting, so much more. We'll talk a little bit about some of our best tips as holistic entrepreneurs, what we've put into play as well. Those of you that are just joining us, I've been doing these live conversations with folks so that we can get out some of the things that we've all been wanting to ask, or at least I've been wanting to ask, and hopefully it's of service to you. I often find myself holding back and muting myself and not really getting out there and saying, hey, I have a question about this. One of my dear mentors always talks about, she wrote a book called Smart Girls, actually, plug to Dr. Robin McKay, by the way. And she talks about how smart girls often have a fear of raising their hands and asking questions and putting themselves out there for fear that they might show up as weak or stupid or whatever, put in the negative comments that we judge ourselves in our heads about. And I decided, after seeing a wonderful speaker at our convention this year for doTERRA talk about 20 seconds of courage, that I was going to have 20 seconds of courage and just start this and just do it and see where it goes. And the most important thing for me was, one, to ask questions and have conversations with real people so I don't feel so alone, and two, to be of service, actually, because the bigger part of it really is that I have learned that I'm not actually alone in how I feel and how I think, which is really kind of awesome, because sometimes it could be feeling really isolating. So I reached out to my friend Lorinda, and I got to tell you guys, we were having a pre-talk, and at one point I was like, maybe we should share some, because Lorinda and I could talk for hours. But we're going to dive right in today. I want to invite you to put any of your comments in the thread below. I've got Facebook muted because otherwise we get feedback. So if you have comments, I'll be checking periodically. If not, please feel free to comment below, ask us questions. Lorinda and I will check in and we'll pop in there and give you some answers if we have them, or we'll ask more questions if we need more info. And that's it. Let's see where it goes today. So I want to welcome Lorinda and have her just tell us a little bit about herself and who she is and what she does. And let's just start there. Hi, Lorinda.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Tracy. I'm very excited to talk with you today. It's always so fun to connect with you specifically, and of course, our larger groups of friends. We have these conversations sometimes. We think, wow, maybe this could be helpful to other people, because we are all sort of going through similar things, right? So just a little bit of background about me. I've been an entrepreneur since 2009. And I started probably a little earlier than that, actually, because I started my massage therapy business in 1995. And I was doing that part-time while I was working for AT&T. So I knew, early on that I wanted to do something to serve people, help people get out of pain, help people feel better, help reduce their stress. And I knew I had that talent, and I wanted to really give to people in that way and make a difference in people's lives. And I kind of knew that my work in telecom wasn't necessarily going to do that. And when I had the opportunity to jump, into my business full time, I did it. And talk about 20 seconds of courage. That really was a big decision for me, because it's not easy to leave a six-figure income, and I was making great money, and yet I was miserable because I knew I wasn't living my true life's purpose. I was working 60 hours a week and more. I didn't have that family balance. My children were young at that time, and they didn't really know me because I wasn't home a lot. I was working all the time, and by the time I got home, they were in bed, so it was a very challenging time. But I was always like, well, I'm making the money, and isn't that great? It's great until you're feeling really empty and you're feeling really unfulfilled. And so when I spoke to my husband about it, I'm like, this is my chance. When AT&T's offering this big severance package and they're announcing these big layoffs, I was like, ooh, pick me, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. And I was just very blessed to be part of that first big wave of people, 12,000 people that were let go back in 2009. And I got just this really generous severance package. And I knew that I would be able to work with that. And it would really help me get my business going. So started with massage therapy, kind of evolved into the essential oils as well. And so I've been helping people for a long time, feel better. And it's it's the kind of thing that I love waking up in the morning, because I always think, who am I going to meet today that I can help, and it's just such a great feeling to have that. And, but the money, so that's always the question when people decide to take the jump, and we're going to talk about that, I'm sure, a little bit. But how do you make that move from the stability, right, of the corporate thing, and just move into that thing where you just don't know how it's going to work, and how am I going to pay my bills, and how am I going to do. And it's so interesting, because even though my money that was incoming was drastically reduced, in comparison to my salary that I was making, I was so much happier. And I found myself not spending as much money, because I didn't need to go to the dry cleaner. I wasn't wearing suits every day, right? I didn't need that. I didn't have the commuting costs. I didn't need to have the latest Coach purse, every season, because for what, who am I trying to impress in the business world? It didn't matter. So certain things, that I had spent money on before, all of a sudden weren't important to me anymore. And so we learned to live on less money, and it was okay. But the quotient of the ratio between the happiness, and at first was the lack of money, and over time that grew and grew. So now they're kind of even now. So it's possible to have a really successful business and make money, and be really happy too. So that's the cool part.
Yeah, I have a similar story, because I quit, I was working in the corporate world too. I worked in film and music and television. And when I left to go teach yoga full time back in 2000, that was like, making a real salary. Now got to put it all together. And I burnt out very quickly and had to reframe, because I had a plan in place, very clear plan in place. And it was teaching, moving from, working well over 60 hours a week in corporate, commuting, having to pay those costs and all the things that it costs to work from New Jersey to New York City, and then also on top of that, figuring out, how am I gonna make, there's no health insurance, there's no 401k when you're working for yourself. It's like, how do I make this leap? And then I wound up teaching 21 yoga classes a week. And not only that, I was also commuting. So now, and then there's all the back work that you do behind building your own business. This is not actually about holistic women entrepreneurs building businesses. We can do you and I could do another call on that. But there was definitely this moment of but you and I both, obviously, and many women we know have made that work, because the shift of the frustration, and yes, you can be successful, but are you fulfilled? And Tony Robbins talks about this all the time. Mm-hmm. Success without fulfillment. I mean, we see it a lot. We see a lot of really successful people not really happy. And for me, I've always been, maybe I'm a happiness junkie. I mean, that's when I first, it's really interesting. When I first started coaching, my coach said, well, who are you coaching? What is it that you do? And I sat with that for weeks. It was a month and a half, what? Because I do so many things, so many components. And I said, I finally came up to her and I'm a happiness coach. And she said, well, that's a little too broad. You got to get more specific. And like, now it's 6 years later. I'm like, no, actually, I think I'm pretty good at that. Anyway, but I mean, I think this is a really great segue, Lorinda, because I want to talk about that. What you said something really interesting about, like, you didn't need all the new suits. You didn't need all the new Coach bags and stuff. And I want to be really clear for those of you watching and listening, that that's not a bad thing. If you like those things, if you like nice clothes and nice purses, and I don't want to say anything's good or bad, because I know that there's enough in our female brains that judge all of that. I know I came from a world where that was like, and that's what I want to talk about today. I really want to talk about money, the myths behind money, the myths that we're conditioned to believe, the mindset, the positive and negative mindset that we have. Like, our attitude towards money is so, it's like we think it's not energy like breath, and we give it so much power over us, instead of us commanding and not, having command over it in essence. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like there's so many, had something else I wanted to say specific. It'll come back to me, but let's dive in here, and then I'm sure it'll come back. So, like, let's talk a little bit about some of the mindset pieces around, like, money. Like, what are some of the beliefs that you had when you were growing up, or that you were conditioned to believe about money?
It's interesting because my parents divorced when I was 5, and my mom, I love my mom so much. We're very close, and when that happened, she really went into survivor mode. Like, I'm gonna make this work. I'm not gonna lose my house. I'm gonna stay here, where my children have been growing up, and I'm gonna make it work. And she worked. She worked 3 jobs. We would go back we lived in a very rural town in Chester, New York, and it was very rural, and there was really no work there. So she would come on the weekends and bring us to my grandparents' house, kind of get us situated there. My sister and I. My sister was 1, I was 5. And she would work her 3 jobs, like, all weekend long. She was a waitress. She was a key punch operator. She did all these things to, try to earn enough money to keep us in that house. And that's what I noticed, like, okay, we need to work hard to make money. That was number 1. But then I also noticed that my mom liked to spend money too. And she loved nice things, and she loved her jewelry, and she loved beautiful things. And sometimes, maybe she would spend her paycheck on a gold bracelet or a gold necklace. And then, come the end of the month, we're like, well, not too much food here in the house, right? Like, we were kind of running out of things. So, and my dad, on the other hand, is totally the opposite with money. So he is more on the cautious side with spending, more frugal, very budget conscious. And you say the word budget to my mom, and she's like, oh, it's like a dirty word. Like, like, don't even say that. So it's funny because, mostly spending more time with my mom, and of course visiting my dad and stuff, I got that message from him. But because I spent the majority of time with her, that kind of gave my money that you should basically spend what you want when the opportunity arises. If it's something that you really, really want, charge it. Just figure out a way to get it, because, that opportunity may come by. And but yet, make sure that you have your education. She always stressed that to us. You have to be educated. You have to rely on yourself. You don't rely on another person to take care of you. In other words, like, don't be, relying on your husband or your partner to take care of you. You have to have the means to support yourself. And your best shot at doing that is to get a good education and to find the right career for yourself that you're going to earn the big bucks, whatever that may be, that you enjoy doing. So I always had that message, and it's stuck with me, all these years. And do I spend money? I sure do. I mean, look, I like nice things. That's no secret to anyone who knows me. I like my sparkle. I like to, I love entertainment. I love traveling. I love my Broadway shows. Like, I love all these things. And especially I have to say with travel, my mom always said to me, if you have an opportunity to travel and if you maybe you don't have the money at that moment, she's like, just do it anyway, because if you save all your money, until you're retired to travel, then you may not be in good shape to do it, right? Or you just may never have that opportunity later. So whenever you have a chance to take a trip, take the trip. And so I do agree with that. And I have charged some trips for sure. But all of that has been so worth it, because it's making a memory, it's an experience, and it's so great to experience those things when you're young, and able-bodied, to do that 20,000 steps a day of walking and exploring those cities. I really appreciate that. Then the credit card bill comes and you're like, now I got to make money. What am I going to do here to help myself, pay off this debt? And I think that's another thing that women sometimes neglect their finances. And I was that person for a long time. I didn't really want to look. Like, I didn't really want to see. I knew I was spending a lot, but somehow it all magically worked out at the end of the month. Like, I somehow managed to pay everything that was due. And but then I realized, this is not good to be ignorant about my money, and how is my money working for me, and how can it work for me better versus flying out of my checking account every red cent that I have every month, because I'm spending up to what I'm making and more. So this year actually is when I started to get much smarter about how much do I have, and putting it on a spreadsheet, and really taking account of how I'm spending my money, where is my money going, and how can I shift that, maybe if I want to, shift it so that my money so it's not a source of stress for me. It's not a source of anxiety, and it's a source of joy, right? Like, I have this money and I'm so grateful because I can do, XYZ in the world because of this. So, but it's got to be, you have to look at it. You have to look at the numbers. We have to get better at math.
Yeah. Well, and I just, those of you that are listening and watching, on Monday, I posted my conversation with Carrie Donegan, and we talked a lot about financial literacy. There's more for us to talk about here. I mean, I could talk about this for months, because I think this is such an interesting, poignant topic for us right now, because women, I think it was the Dalai Lama that said modern women will save the world. But I think that this financial literacy, the financial literacy is important for all humans, but women especially. And I think financial intimacy, we have to get intimate with our money. And I think, and I'm really interested to hear why you think that is, because I have my own theories, but I'd love to hear what you have to say. I feel like that we are really, because I too was I'm not going to look at it. Because I think there's an ignorance is bliss type of thing.
Yes.
Or, and also our brains are wired differently than the masculine brain. It's just biology. And I think that we're more dreamers and believers, and we have a bigger, broader perspective in some ways, because we just trust, sometimes too much, I think. But we're trusting humans, we're trusting organisms, I will say. And so I think I know for myself, it's sort of I've always trusted that the universe will provide. Yes. I know that may not be financially sound business plan. Like, I have always trusted on some level that the universe will provide. Maybe it's I have a strong sense of faith. Maybe it's that it's always been like that. You know, Carrie shared on our conversation that her dad always had said to her, like, you'll always have enough. And for me, like, I don't remember those messages. Like, the messages in my house were like, money is the root of all evil. And this is not just my house. I've heard this from other women all over the globe. Like, you know, if you have money, you either are a bad person, or you got it somehow illegally, or, you know, maybe if you made money, then maybe you're going to become a bad person. Like, you know, because money and bad were always associated with one another. Money and evil, money and bad. I wrote down a few here. I'm looking to see what other ones what was standing out for me.
Money doesn't grow on trees.
Money doesn't grow on trees. Right.
I heard that a few times.
And you said it. The big one is you have to work hard to make money.
Right.
That's a huge, huge issue, you know, and I think that has permeated so many women's decisions to not live their biggest, fullest, best version of themselves because they feel so limited by, I want that, but I have to do this, this, and this. It's going to be way harder than I want to work.
Right.
Or that I think that we think it's like the hard work means we're going to have to lift a boulder by ourselves, you know,
Right.
And sometimes it might feel that way, but like, and I think it comes down to, I know for me, it comes down to, is it a hell yes or is it a no? Like, because the stuff that's a hell yes, I'll work my butt off for.
Right.
I don't care. Like, the hard work is inconsequential because that's a blip on the radar. But I think it's, you know what I mean? Like, it's such an interesting way that, like, those thought patterns and that mindset and that conditioning that we get starts to live out in our lives. And, you know, you and I were having a conversation. We were on a webinar together a couple of weeks ago, and you said something that I was like, yeah, Lorinda, I'm with you. Like, I was so excited. Like, you said something, and it was just like, it's like I was feeling and thinking it, and you verbalized it, and I was like,
what was it?
It was this idea that it's hard to stay excited about what you're doing when there's no flow of money.
You're right. It's discouraging, right?
That was one thing you said. Mm-hmm. The other thing you said is, like, think about if you're doing something honorable, you're helping, you're being of service to people, and you're making money, an abundant amount of money. How is that bad? Think about all the good that you can do when you have those financial needs.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, some people feel like, you know, it's not honorable to earn a lot of money, or, you know, their primary focus is serving others and helping others. And I see this many times with people who have holistic health businesses.
Totally.
You know, I have a lot of friends, massage therapists, yoga teachers, and it seems to be in this crowd of people that seem to have difficulty with the idea that you can serve others, but you can make money too. You know, if you think about all the training that you've invested in to get at this place, you know, you for your yoga certification, your coaching certifications, we've invested a lot of money to have this credibility, to have this, you know, this expertise, and that is worth money. You know, that's worth being compensated for.
Yeah.
So the idea that, you know, making money at your holistic healthcare business is somehow uncomfortable or frowned upon. No, you know, you're worth it. You're worth the money, and you deserve it. And it's okay to help people and serve people and make abundant money too, because the more money we make, the more people we can help, the more people we can serve. I have ideas about where I want to go. I want to go on a mission trip. I want to go to Guatemala. I want to go to Bulgaria. There's places that are in my vision that I would love to go to and help serve those communities. I need money to do that. A ticket to Bulgaria is $2,000. That doesn't just come out of my monthly budget. How am I going to get there? Right. So when we have these visions of things we really want to do, many of us have causes, that are very special to us. I have so many, my church, I have so many different things that I really love that are very close to my heart. I want to help these organizations as much as I possibly can. In order to do that, I need to have a surplus of funds. I can't just be making it every month, and just barely covering my bills, because what does that leave left over to put out into the world and help other people?
So true, so true. And I think the fallback thought pattern is that somehow the struggle, like if you're struggling financially, that's more honorable than if you're working your butt, that you're working smart, not hard, right? It doesn't have to, you don't have to work hard to make money. I want to really dispel that myth, because you have to work consistently, you have to work smartly, you have to take right inspired action. Yes, 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 all of those things, but you do not have to work hard. And I think like that word and that sentence has to be restructured, because it's like nobody wants to work hard. Like, I don't want it to be hard. You have to work in a way that feeds your soul.
Yes.
Because you and I have both experienced, let's talk about weight loss. We've both experienced weight loss and weight gain and weight loss again and weight gain. Like, we've all done it, right? And I think that there are ways that's something that it seems like we're working hard. People will be like, oh, that's too hard of work. But actually, like, it actually feels good to put those action steps in place, because the results are cumulative. And I think that piece right there is so important. Like, the actions we take every day, no matter how big or how small, whether we're talking about health, whether we're talking about finances, whether we're talking about writing a book or creating something, it's daily action steps that accumulate, that create the end result. It's not, we live in a culture where we want a pill to fix everything. We work in the essential oil business, like, we understand in holistic health, we don't think that way. We get that it's not a magic pill for anything. There's no magic pill to make you rich. There's no magic pill to get you healthy. You have to take the actions. You have to be responsible and willing to put yourself in the arena, as Brene Brown says.
Yes.
And be willing to do it imperfectly. Like, let's talk about perfectionism for a second.
Oh, favorite topic.
Favorite, least favorite.
Recovering perfectionists, raise my hand. Okay.
I'm going to raise both hands.
Oh, man.
How has perfectionism stopped you in your tracks?
Well, perfectionism is a really insidious problem, because in the past, I didn't feel like I was doing my absolute best or my most perfect self. I would just feel like a total failure. Even if I got 95% there, but that 5%, man, that would just kill me. Why couldn't I get that? Why couldn't I just exceed that goal? Why couldn't I just surpass that? I just got so close. And so I would just feel like I totally failed. And it would just make me feel so bad about myself and shame myself, into thinking that, well, I'm just not good enough to do this. And I'm in the wrong field. I chose the wrong business. I'm just not cut out for this. And it just starts that whole self-doubt cycle. And it could so easily just bring me down into that spiral, that way down there. And I have to be honest with you, Tracy, definitely have had moments where I have not been able to get out of bed in the morning. Like, it's that severe, the anxiety, the depression, the feeling so inadequate, and feeling that I just don't measure up to my own seemingly impossible standards. It's not a standard that someone else gave to me. Maybe when I was little, someone else gave me that standard. But as a grown woman, I'm setting my own standard, right? Nobody's telling me what to do. I'm making my own choices and my own decisions, right? And setting the bar so high for myself. And when I didn't make it, just feelings just so drained and so exhausted and just so just miserable. Like, why couldn't I do that, you know? And I remember very distinctly, this was about 4 years ago.
Hold on, Lorinda. I'm losing you for a second.
When I had just come off my second round of Diamond Club.
Are you there?
Are we frozen? We good?
Hold on, because there's a little bit of a delay here. Looks like you're frozen in it.
We're good. We're good. I hope we're good.
Anyway, I hear you now, but your video is a little frozen, but that's okay. I can hear you. Let's see. There you are.
Sorry.
No worries. I think, yeah,
I don't know. Okay, I'm back. All right. So back to Diamond Club, and it's just a very intense leadership development program. There's a lot of requirements. The goal, we're good? We're good. All right. The expectation is that a person would rank advance, you know, after completing the 4-month program. I was thinking, okay, I'm going to go from gold to platinum, you know, and I did it. And I just remember feeling so discouraged and such a failure and so horrible. And I went to the doTERRA Leadership Conference, and by chance, of course, there really is nothing by chance, right? Everything is meant to happen, right? But I was so blessed to run into Emily Wright, and like walking down the hallway, you know, how does that happen? Because she's usually mobbed with people, right? And she literally we walked right into each other, and she said, "How are you? I'm so glad to see you. And how are you doing?" And how positive she is, right? And I just looked at her and I said, well, I'm still gold. You know, I finished the Diamond Club. I did well. You know, I was number 13 in my class, but I'm still gold. I'm trying. I'm really struggling, trying to get to diamond. I'm really doing my best, but still gold, right? And I thought she really felt like, I thought she was going to cry, honestly. And I thought I was going to cry, and I'm not a crier. But she took my shoulders and she just looked at me like dead in the eyes and said, "Lorinda, I want you to know that your rank does not define you. It does not define your worthiness or your value in this world. And you're an amazing, incredible leader, no matter what your title, you know, may be. And I want you to have joy in the journey. It's not just about the destination. It's about the journey to get there. And think about this. How many lives have you touched in your journey so far with doTERRA? You know, your goal, that means your team has at least 1,000 people, right? I said, yeah, you've helped 1,000 people already. Mm-hmm. It's amazing. Just think about that.
And also the thing that I want to just add to this, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you got me so excited now. Like those 1,000 people have also changed other people's lives because it's a ripple effect.
Yes.
I think we forget about that, you know?
Yes. You see, when you change one person's life, what will they go on to do? How will they impact others in their circles, right? You know, and
I have goosebumps right now.
I know. And she said that to me, and I was like, oh, like it was God put her there in front of me at that very moment because he knew I needed that sign, because I was ready to quit my business. Like that's how mad I was. And that's perfectionism rearing its ugly head and making a person feel so bad about themselves that they feel like a failure, even though they ended up number 13 out of 500 people in Diamond Club. But all I was focused on was I'm still gold and I didn't get to platinum. That's the only thing that I was, angry. I was angry. I was resentful. I was mad at myself. I was mad at my team. I'm going to be honest with you. I was mad. I was just mad at everybody.
Yeah.
And Emily just helped me reframe that so beautifully and just look at it in a whole new light. And from that moment on, I'm telling you, that was 4 years ago. And I remember it like she was just here yesterday. I remember it and I keep those words with me, and, that heartfelt, message from her in my heart always. And it was really, that was the beginning of my turnaround, the beginning of my mindset shift, and the beginning of looking at everything that I did as a blessing and something, helpful to other people. And it didn't really matter so much, what the rank was, but how I was able to serve so many people. And like you said, that ripple effect. And it really didn't happen for me for 1 full year later to turn diamond. It took another year.
But I also want to jump in and say this, like, let's think about in perspective, and I mean, we tell ourselves the story, but think about in perspective, like how few people get to gold to begin with. That in and of itself is a feat.
Yeah.
And to be like 13th in your class out of how many millions?
500 people that were in that Diamond Club class.
Right.
I came in 13, but I didn't care. Like,
no, that's what, yeah, right. This like constant thing that goes in our head, like I still need to be better. I need to be better. I need to be better. I need to be doing it perfectly. And also I think it's important to remember, like, this is exactly why success doesn't happen in a vacuum. Because you would have given up. If Emily hadn't been put in front of you, if there wasn't that community of even one other person to check in. I mean, I think that's, this whole thing about mental health now that's out, this, like, now there's a conversation finally, like anxiety and depression is a real thing. Like, it's a real thing. I struggle with anxiety and depression myself, and I never even knew it until about 6 years ago. I just thought I was a high energy person, and sometimes I felt really blue. Like, I had no words for it. We don't talk about it, but I think that's why connection is so important. And I have to tell you that story that you just shared, like, I just feel myself in that moment. Like, I could tell you hundreds of different times I felt that way in my life, where I didn't always have somebody there. So I just kind of put it aside. And I said, well, maybe not now. Maybe not now. I think that's why it's so important to surround ourselves with people who can uplift us, can also hear us, can also see us. I think for women especially, and men, I think that this is not just a man-woman thing. I think this is a human thing. We need, like, part of what heals us is to be able to be seen, heard, and validated.
Yes.
Just acknowledging somebody, just having some, I have a card somewhere that I bought years ago. I took one of these courses that changed my life, one of the many, because one of the things I've never sacrificed is education, and continuing education and self-development have always been a top priority with me, plus travel. So those two things are things I always spend money on, and I always find the money for them. But I remember I bought this card that said, sometimes people just need a good listening to. Because it was just like, that's what I needed to hear. Like, I needed someone to just hear me, not to fix it, not to tell me I'm right, not to tell me I'm wrong, not to give me advice, but just to listen. It's such a gift to be able to be heard and seen and received. And by the way, I want to say, those of you listening, and for me and Lorinda to hear as well, but like, it's also a gift for the listener. Like, hearing you share your story with me, it opens my heart. And like, I tap into, I can relate. And I think, I took it off the board. I had on this board back here last week during some of the videos, I wrote down, comparison is the thief of joy. And I think when you're sharing and you're listening, we talked about this earlier today. I don't know if we were recording when we talked about it. This idea of like, how what we see nowadays, fake news, we see like everyone's highlight reels. And we don't really see all the stuff that goes behind the scenes, which is what this 20 seconds of courage thing is all about. Like, what's really happening? Like, what's going on in the background? Like, behind the highlight reel, what's happening backstage? You know what I mean? And I think that that's such an important piece, because we don't necessarily, don't let me lose the thought. I get so excited, I've almost lost the thought. But we don't necessarily see all of those pieces that are happening. And I think this is why I created it. So we get like, oh, right, this is more of a behind the scenes thing. This is what's really going on.
Right.
You know, like, we're not alone. I think it's so important. Oh, God, I'm so excited. Sometimes I get so excited. I have so many things going through my head. I should write it down. Like, and this is a perfect example, right? For those of you listening and watching, like, this is what it means to be not a perfectionist. It's called done is better than perfect.
Yes.
Really, if you can hear anything, done is better than perfect. My dear coach, who I love, one of my coaches, I absolutely adore her. And she used to say, perfectionism is for poor people. And I was like, so I'm just going to let that land there. Feel free to comment below. Let me just take a look here and see.
Well, I have to follow up on that. It's
yes.
just, letting that perfectionism go. It wasn't an overnight process. It took a while for me to kind of really let that go. And I won't say I'm 100% there, mostly though. And I've learned to appreciate what I can do, and just see everything as a blessing, and everything is meant for me. I think sometimes we feel like the universe is out to get us, or, but I don't see that. I see, sometimes when struggles come our way, what is this here to teach me? Why am I, in this place at this moment with this really nasty situation? Like, what am I meant to learn from this? Instead of looking at it as, another nasty situation. Now what am I gonna, so it's, I think our minds are programmed to go to the negative so easily. We just so easily go there. It's so easy. And I was like that too. Even though positivity is in my top 5 strengths, it was just so easy for me to just look at that dark side, and be so self-critical, right? And then, I started to just look at things in a different way and say, okay, what is this meant to teach me? How can I learn from this? Thank you. Thank you for this situation in my life, so that I can learn and grow from it and move on, right? So not every moment of life is joyful, of course. We'll have those things that pop up that are not so fun, right? But how do you react to that? That's what will dictate whether you're going to let that sink you, right? You're going to let it get you down and keep you there, or you're just going to rise above it. So
yeah, and it definitely is a process. I'm very much on the same page as life is happening for me, not to me. And that all the things that happen, one of my biggest prayers is, may I have this, please, universe, or something better. Yes. Like, because sometimes, and then we've all read this, it's not cliche, it's like out there in the world, like, when you're not getting what you want, you're being redirected towards something that's better.
Right.
And I think that that's an important piece. And the one more thing I wanted to say about the perfectionist piece, about the comparison, which I now remembered, was that if you can, in those moments where you're looking online and you are comparing yourself and despairing, I say compare and despair, admire and aspire, right? So there's not this feeling of like, oh, they're different than me, I'm not good enough. Like, because that was my go-to. My go-to was, oh, well, they have this because this and this and this and this, and I don't have that, but what part of it do you relate to? What part of it do you identify with? What part of you can you admire and say, hey, I can have that too in my own way? You know, I think that's a really important piece to remember. And it doesn't go away overnight. It's
No.
a process. And I think
Mhm.
so much, like, but if you resist it, it continues to happen. What you resist persists. So
Yes.
if you can make your way through the darkness, because a lot of times, and I heard you say, use that word, like that darkness, right? Like,
Yeah.
I know for me, like a lot of times we want to push away the part that are the ugly side, the dark side, right? This is so Star Wars-esque, right? It's like this is so George Lucas, right? You want to push away the dark side, but we need to really acknowledge that because it's part of who we are. Every single person has a light and a dark.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a yoga teacher. That's what yoga is all about, is bringing together the opposites into balance. But in order to do that, you need to acknowledge them. You can't
Right.
keep pushing one part of you away, because then we feel fragmented. And I think the people that are most successful, at least from the highlight reels, and this is why I'm having these conversations, because I want to know the real lowdown. Because
Hmm.
I think sometimes, like for me, as a little girl, I always wanted to be in movies. I wanted to make movies. I wanted to be in movies. I didn't know how. I wanted to be in movies. And so I like have a lot of movie stars that I admire. And I have these stories that I tell myself in the head that, oh, they must have this and this. And, some of it you see, like you see the highlight reels, you see these people that are generous, and they're wonderful to their fans, and they're giving, and they're using their money and their wealth for good. And so you kind of anticipate it, but I want to know what's going on inside of them. Like, what is the thought pattern? You know what I mean? So I'm not there yet where I'm interviewing those folks yet. But stick around, I might get there. Because I got a lot of questions. Um, so let's talk about, we talked about perfectionism. We talked about this money thing. Like, I want to know, like, why do you think, like, where do you think it comes from? I mean, like, where do you think this idea comes from that, you know, why is it that instead of us thinking, look how much good I can do, when I make more money, I can do so much more good. Why do you think that we go the opposite direction? What's your take on it?
Well, I think like we talked about, our origin story, right? How we grew up and those messages that we may have received as we were young, that's like programmed in our DNA, really. And it's very challenging to break free of those family patterns that, your parents, your grandparents, their grandparents, like all these people, contributed to those messages. And it does take some effort and some consciousness to kind of look at those, beliefs and see them for what they are and thank them, and then make a decision that these beliefs no longer serve me and I'm letting them go. And it's a conscious choice, to step away from something that you've grown up with your whole life, you've heard your whole life, and that's scary, because you may believe something that maybe is harmful, right? But because you've believed it for so long, it's normal for you. And to step outside of that and to, let that go and forge a new path that maybe your family is not following you on. Maybe your family is still trying to pull
Yeah.
back into this is the way we think here, like this is the way we do things, and you're starting to break away, and in that moment of transition where you're about to jump and you have people pulling back on you, it takes a lot of courage to just keep going, and be confident and knowing that you're doing the right thing by leaving that belief in the dust, and hopefully, other people would follow you, but if they don't, that's okay too. I think we have a very big need to be liked. And so when we make decisions and people are resistant to our choices, it could be family members and they may not like you for that choice, and that hurts us sometimes. That makes us feel badly about ourselves. But we have to still rise above that anyway. It's more important to follow really what feels best for you in your heart, and to continue to grow and evolve. And there's naturally going to be some people that aren't going to like you when you start that process, and when you start changing and growing and, appearing different to them. They may not like that, and that's okay. Sometimes those people are meant to fall away. Maybe those relationships are meant to fall away for a time. I think people come in and out of our life for a reason and a season. So it's and it's being okay with that, and just moving forward. And you're going to attract a new tribe, with a new belief system, and people that are, vibrating maybe at the same intensity, the same level as you. And, together you can, really move forward with ease and grace. I love that term, ease and grace. Like, let's just go. Like, it doesn't have to be painful. And it is sometimes, let's be real, it's painful sometimes, but can we move forward with ease and grace? That's always the most ideal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that that concept of like leaping and feeling like you're going to leave behind the people that have bolstered the old beliefs,
Yeah.
and jumping into something new can be very, very scary. And I talked a little bit about this with Katrin when we did our conversation about boundaries and like healthy boundaries and stuff. So we won't go back into that. You can go back and watch. Those of you want to learn more about that, you can go back and watch that conversation. But I want to talk about, now that we've covered perfectionism, we've covered mindset, we've talked a little bit about money, we've talked about taking leaps that are out of those comfort zones, that we're used to now. What are some of the best tips? Like, let's give our listeners, our watchers here, the people that are wanting to have their 20 seconds of courage. Let's talk a little bit about what are like our top tips for getting from where you are. Let's talk, if we go back to this financial piece here, like if you have a goal and you want to get from point A to point Z, because I think a lot of times we think it's point A, point Z, and that's just it. It's one step and we do one thing and it's done. It's like when people tell me like, oh, I tried lavender oil for my allergies and it just didn't seem to work. And I ask, how often did you do it? They're like, I took one drop. I'm like, how often? They're like, just one. So, and I think, we talked about it a little bit earlier on in our conversation, this idea that it's about a cumulative action plan. So, yeah. And I know you're a strategy girl, right? You like you're like really good. That's one of the things I really admire about you, Lorinda, is like, you've got goal setting and strategy down pretty well, I think. So I'd love for you to share with me and with anyone watching and listening, what are some of your hot tips on goal setting and strategizing for that?
Well, that's a great question. And strategy is in my top 5 strengths. So it's really
not mine.
One of my superpowers, and one of the things I'm just really, really good at. And I think it starts with, firstly, visualizing what it is that you want. And I learned this from Tiffany Peterson years ago. And to not just visualize the thing or the status or the place that you want to be, but how is it going to feel when you get it? So really ascribing emotions, sights, sounds, how is that going to feel when you achieve that thing that you want? Really picture yourself at that Z point, at that achievement moment. What are you wearing? What is the music playing? What people are around you? What do you smell like? What oil are you wearing, right? Just really be very clear about how achieving that goal is going to make you feel, and what are those feelings. So that's number 1. And then number 2, I talk to a lot of people, I coach a lot of people, and not necessarily on my team. So I coach a lot of different people, and a lot of people will say to me, oh, I want to be silver this month, or I want to be gold this month. And then, okay, how do you, what's your plan? Like, what are you planning on doing to reach that goal? And then they'll be like, I don't know. I guess I'll have some classes. So it's one thing to have the goal, and it's really important to be able to identify the goal, right? But the goal without the action steps underneath it is just a wish, right? So if we don't have, concrete steps that we're going to take to reach that goal, guess what? It ain't happening. I don't care how much you want it, but you have to really, decide. And sometimes that's the part that people may have trouble with, where I can really help, is, coming up with those ideas and the strategy, and just looking at the big picture and saying, okay, this is maybe where you want to focus your energy to reach, your goal. But you've got to write stuff down. It's so important. You have to look at the math. You have to look at your numbers. You have to know your numbers. I'm really fastidious about looking at my numbers. In the past, I would look at them 10 times a day, and it would drive myself crazy, and now I look at them usually once a day, and usually in the morning. And I have a big whiteboard, and I have everything notated, like where each team is, in my organization, and, where they need to be. So I know, okay, this one is going to need some support this month. This one's going to need some support. This one's actually good. They're flying on their own. Okay, awesome. So you really need to take those steps to break it down, and break it down in small chunks that are manageable. Nobody lost, 50 pounds in 1 month. Like, you have to be, deliberate. And sometimes, if I'm thinking about, like, right now I'm in the middle of a 14-day hormone detox, and I'm like, I'm a little tired, no caffeine, no sugar. It's been like, wow, this is like hit me. So, and yesterday I ate some pretzel thins. Oh, well, and the old me would have been like, wow, you just ruined your cleanse. You totally effed it up, right? Like, let's just go have cupcakes now. That would be the old me. Now, the new me, new and improved Lorinda 2.0, says, well, okay, let's give yourself some grace. You needed that little crunch. You needed that little, it's going to be okay. Tomorrow you do better. And I always tell myself, if I can do 10% better every day, then I'm winning, right? I don't have to be 100% better, but what small action step can I do that is just 10%? Can I make today 10% better than yesterday? How can I do that? Maybe it's just calling one more person, or 2 more people, or making 1 more appointment. So I'm not giving myself these insurmountable tasks or insurmountable goals. I'm giving myself manageable, small, achievements that I can win. I like winning. Hey, who doesn't like winning? I like to win. I like to see other people winning. I love to see people achieving victory in whatever form that is for them. So it's also, how do you define success? I used to define success only by my rank, right? Thus my story about Emily Wright and me saying, I'm just a gold, wah, 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 right? Or, maybe then when I reached diamond, and maybe if I didn't maintain that rank, and I would be, oh man, I lost my rank, like I lost my tail, or what am I going to do now? And, I've really shifted my thinking around those things. And now I'm defining success differently. If I can create 3 appointments today, that is a win, a huge win for me. If I can set up next week with 3 new appointments, oh, bravo, that's my win. So I'm not giving myself these huge, goals, like I need 5,000 PV in this line, or that's it, what am I going to do? Okay, that's true. That may be true, but what small action steps can I take on a daily basis to get me there? So always chunk it down into small things that you can achieve. You want to stretch yourself a little, but you don't want to have these gargantuan goals that you just look at it and just like, forget it. Like I can't even do it.
Yeah.
So those are my tips. Like
That's awesome.
10% increments. How can I be 10% better? And just look at the numbers. You got to know your numbers.
You got to know your numbers. You got to know your numbers. I love this. I love this. Chunking it down is so important. So I'm in this program. Some of you have heard me talk about it. I posted some videos. I'm in this program, My Peak Challenge this year, and they give you the workouts and the menu and all that and stuff. So they give you daily workouts every single day. And some of the workouts are really long. And one of the things they always say to us is like, modify it. Maybe you need an extra rest day. Maybe you need 2 extra rest days. Maybe you can't fit all the workout in at 7 o'clock in the morning. You have to do half of it in the morning, half of the afternoon, maybe something in the middle. Like, it's so customizable. Life is customizable.
Yes. Yes.
Life is customizable. Business is customizable. And there's no one right way to do life. There's just not. As a coach, I always tell my clients, like, you're benefiting, like you said in the beginning, like you're benefiting from the money and the time and the resources that I have invested in my education and my learning and my growth. And that's what I give to you. Is it the only way? No, but it's my way. And if you resonate with that, then maybe we can find a common ground to work together for a little while our paths cross. Because I think that it's not just one, there's not just one answer. There's not just one person. I always, in my movie star brain, I think about like when I received my Academy Award, which clearly and this is a perfect example, I will never receive an Academy Award unless I put the actions towards getting there, guys. So it's a dream and I can talk about it and joke about it, but the amount of people I would have to thank that would have gotten me there, people wouldn't realize that I'd be thanking my kindergarten teacher or my 2nd grade teacher or my English teacher in 7th grade or my drama teacher. That might be a little bit more obvious if you're an actor, which I don't consider myself necessarily an actor. I'm a singer more than that, that, but although the video that Carrie posted about me singing was not a good, at our group party was not a good example. But anyway, the idea is I always think about those people that have influenced me, that have gotten me to the moment, to this now moment, I'm so grateful for. And there are so many people. I wouldn't be here talking with you if it wasn't for you and me interacting.
Right.
Everything has a reason and a place in our lives. So just to, that concept of just getting that life is happening for you. And gratitude is such a big part of that for me. I know that has really shifted my consciousness. Just being really grateful, aside from the practical things, right? Chunk it down. I think that realistic goals are important. Big dream goals, the Academy Award, red carpet goals, those are important too. But the big realistic goals, and what I mean by realistic is that doesn't mean they have to be small.
Mm-hmm.
But I find a lot when people come to workshops at yoga, for instance, they'll be like, I'm going to meditate every single day for the rest of my life for 20 minutes a day, and I'm never going to miss a day. Beware of every day and never and always words, because that's unrealistic.
Right.
Life happens. Stuff happens. Sometimes we don't want to get out of bed. Sometimes we're injured. Sometimes there's weddings, there's funerals, there's births of babies, there's trips. Every day is not always possible. But you said a word before that I really want to talk about for a second here, decide. You have to make a decision, and a decision means that you cut something else off. And I think a lot of people seem to be afraid, at least this is what I've seen. People are afraid to make decisions, especially when it comes about money and investing and spending, because they're so afraid, like I have been, if I spend money on this, I won't have for that. I spend money on this, I won't have for that. And that is a lack mindset. Mm-hmm. This is all that I'm getting. This is what I've been allotted for life. There's no, the only non-renewable resource is time. Money is a renewable resource. And if I can stress that to people, that money is currency, currency is energy, and it's meant to flow in and flow out. And when you hold it and you resist it, you restrict it from flowing in and flowing out. I mean, it's like you're standing on a garden hose. There's no movement of that energy. So I wanted to say that. I wanted to also say, I loved what you said about visualizing. And I think visualizing is so important, Lorinda, like visualizing. And I also am so grateful because I was going to hop in and you beat me to it, which was awesome. Like putting the emotion behind it and the detail into what it's going to feel like once it's already happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like spend time. Mike Dooley talks about it. Don't spend too much time, but spend about 10 minutes and put yourself in that moment. Live it. Walk down the red carpet, accept the award, get dressed, put on the perfume, the earrings, the nail polish, or whatever it is, the tuxedo, whatever it is that you're looking to create, visualize it and live it every single day. And then let your inspired action come from there. I think that's so well said. I love what you said about that. And the numbers, looking at the numbers, getting really intimate with your numbers, get real with your numbers. And what else do we want to say about that? Doing something daily. I think that's the important piece. The actions, daily actions, because it doesn't just happen overnight. It's every single day. Actions. And this is the most important thing, which you said, is get okay with being imperfect.
Yeah.
Did I miss anything?
No.
We said so much.
We did. This was chock full of stuff.
So much stuff here. And I'd really be interested. So, and I don't think I've done this yet in the other conversations, but you've sparked an interest in me. I'd love for those of you listening and watching to put in the comments how you define success. What does success mean to you? Because I think all of us think about success differently. Success is not just financial. Success can be other things. So I want to hear what you have to say. I think that's all. I think there's so much more to say. Lorinda and I could talk for hours. We've said that, like when we were talking about doing this video, she and I went on and on and on for like 25 minutes on Facebook going, we could talk about this. We could talk about this. So I hope that this has been of service to those of you watching and listening. Lorinda, it has been such a blessing and a gift that you took time out of your morning to talk to me today. Thank you so much for bringing you fully here and your strength, hope, and experience, as we say in recovery, to this conversation. I'm so grateful. So grateful to know you and to be able to call you my friend and my colleague, and so grateful to all of you out there listening and hopefully enjoying and being served by our conversations. And I wish you all 20 seconds of courage today and every day to do something that you've always been wanting to do, and just take the 20 seconds of courage and just do it. Right? I always say if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
So true.
So why not just go for it? We're given this much time in this body to do this much stuff.
Right.
Let's just fill it up and make it the best journey we possibly can together.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you so much, Lorinda. Have a beautiful day. We'll see you next time, guys. Bye.
Take care. Bye.